But I'm cool like that. 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 I'm cool like that.
Hey guys, week 11 of the podcast, back at it. I've been gone for a few weeks, took a hiatus, but as we make our playoff push, I wanted to make sure I had a chance to talk to you guys. So before I get into the review, I just want to quickly go over a couple of the major rule changes we made back at the draft. So I posted about these in the message boards. They're the first message of the season, so you're still welcome to go look at them. I posted them the day after the draft and told you all to go to look at them. So if you didn't, I don't know what to say, but I'm just gonna quickly reiterate what I say in there. And first is keepers. If you forgot, we did reinstate keepers. So those are back. Each team gets one keeper. Whichever round you pick the guy in, that's what he counts for. Waiver wire pickups count as your last round pick. However, the one caveat to this rule is that say like Jay Ajayi, I picked him in the 11th round. Then I dropped him. Jordan picked him up, dropped him. Barnesy picked him up, dropped him, then picked him up again. So he's on Barnesy's team right now. And he was on the waiver wire, but he was still picked in the 11th round. So that means if Barnesy decides to keep Ajayi, he's his 11th round pick, not his 16th round pick. So that's just the way it goes. And the reason we had that rule, it's the rule we had 2 years ago when we did keepers, and it's the rule we have now. And that's to defend against people doing something like, let's say Antonio Brown, first overall pick, got hurt and broke his leg, tore his ACL or something in week 2. Joey would be wasting a roster spot to keep him on his team, but if he drops him, suddenly he's a waiver wire pickup, and I could go and grab him and be like, and just stash him away on my bench. At which point it's worth wasting a roster spot because I'm going to be next season. I'm going to say Antonio Brown's my keeper. I get him in the 16th round, and suddenly you have one of the best players in the league as your last round pick, and so it's just not fair. So to make sure that that doesn't happen, this is the rule we had last time. So Jay Ajayi would be an 11th round pick, and same goes for everyone. So I'll send out the draft board so you can review if you picked anyone up who's already drafted. And make sure you're not picking someone thinking he's going to be a 16th round pick when he's really like a 9th round pick or something like that. So just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. All right, the other major rule change was the waiver order, which we do on a week-to-week basis now. And I mean, I haven't heard any complaints, so it seems like it's going okay. But once the playoffs start, obviously the 5 teams that lose can't have first priority on the waiver wire because they're the teams that aren't in the playoffs anymore. So the way it's going to work is just go back to a normal waiver wire system where the 6th seed gets the first pick on the waiver order, 5th seed gets second, 4th third, so on. Then the next week, the 4 teams that are still playing, if it's the fifth seed, the 3rd seed, and then 2 and 1, it'll be 5th gets the first pick, 3rd gets second, and so on. And that's how we're going to do it. But the thing is that the teams that are not competing anymore, that get eliminated from the playoffs or never made it, they still can pick people up. They'll just be a lower priority behind the people that are actually competing. And the reason for this is they're still keepers. And keepers could potentially show themselves up at the end of the season if you really are struggling to find a keeper. I'm not going to say you can't find one on the waiver wire after the season ends. I'm not going to screw you for next season just because you suck this season. So that's the way it's going to be. And it's also, since we are going to have those teams that don't make the playoffs still get to use the waiver wire, I'm also going to reinstate the consolation bracket so you guys can have fun with that. So if you don't make the playoffs, you can still try and get a little moral victory and win the consolation bracket. All right, let's start the review really quick. So we'll start it with the high score of the week, which was Dave 173.4 over Jordan's 128. And Dave started this week, of course, with a blockbuster trade with Steve to make Dave's pretty much only weakness on his team is suddenly a strength at quarterback. He might have arguably the best quarterback in fantasy football, Tom Brady. So he crushes Jordan, despite Jordan putting up a pretty solid week, thanks to Tom Brady, David Johnson, and Dez Bryant. Le'Veon Bell crushed for Jordan, but everyone else was pretty average. Next, we'll go to Joey, who keeps himself in the playoff hunt at 4-6 now, beating Barnesy with another pathetic week. Barnesy loses AJ Green in this matchup. Might be the nail in Barnesy's coffin not having AJ Green anymore, arguably his best player. Next, we'll go to Willie beating Sean 108.1 to 95.3. Willie, neither of these teams really did all that great. Jamison Crowder was good for Willie, and that was pretty much the difference in this game. Jamison Crowder. And next, we'll move to my team, getting a much-needed victory after a loss last week, 138.3 over John's 119.3. I picked up Kirk Cousins on the waiver wire, and he crushed for me. Elman did really well, and everyone else just had pretty solid weeks for me, so I'm able to get a much-needed victory. And finally, we get to Steve, who is the perpetrator of the Dave Tom Brady trade. Gets Melvin Gordon, although Melvin Gordon didn't play this week. Steve gets a win over Garrett, and no thanks to Steve's quarterback that he did keep in Big Ben, who only put up 8.7 points. So that's this week's review. Let's get into the awards. I'm sexy and I know it. Start of the week goes to David Johnson, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, another 57 receiving yards and 7 catches for 35 points. Dude's been a monster all season. I thought he might be one of those CJ Spiller hype train type guys, one of those guys that experts just get a hard on for and just gets drafted way too early because of it and then doesn't deliver. Obviously hasn't been the case. The dude got drafted early and he deserved it. He should have gone even earlier. He's been a beast start to finish.
You suck!
Alright, this week's dud is going to be Big Ben Roethlisberger. Dude didn't throw a touchdown, not even 200 yards against the Cleveland Browns. He doesn't even get to double digits for Steve. So the quarterback that Steve opts to keep doesn't fare too well in his debut of the post-Tom Brady era. However, got to figure Big Ben's going to be better than that, and Steve still got to win, so it doesn't really matter in the end. We'll see how it affects Steve in the playoffs, though. Alright, waiver move of the week goes to moi for getting Kirk Cousins to back up Matt Ryan while Matt Ryan was on his bye. I initially had Blake Bortles in there. Thankfully, I was able to come to my senses and get Kirk Cousins, who crushed for me on Sunday Night Football. 33.4 points. He was just throwing the ball up and down on the Packers. And so that had to sting double for John, his favorite team getting torched by his fantasy opponent. God damn it! Brought to you by the Cleveland Browns. Alright, this week's shitty call was by Sean, whose luck comes to an end, at least for 1 week, in week 11, as he started Willie Snead, who only put up 7.3 over Devontae Parker, who puts up 21.9. And had he started Devontae Parker over Snead, Parker would have given him just enough to beat Willie. Would have gotten him to about 109. Willie had 108.1. Would have been a narrow victory, but a victory nonetheless, and it would have clinched the division for Sean.
This is a story about a girl named Lucky.
The Dumb Luck Award is going to go to its namesake, Willie Hooper, who gets a lucky win over Sean. He had the 4th lowest score of the week with 108 points, but still gets the victory. And it's doubly lucky because he needed this victory to stay in the division hunt against Sean, who would have clinched the first seed and his division with a victory. So big win for Willie.
You know what? This is bullshit. This is bullshit.
Jordan had the shittiest luck this week. He had the 3rd highest score of the week in a low-scoring week with 128, but he still gets beat pretty handily by about 45 points to Dave, a division rival. And unfortunately for Jordan, that drops him out of the 3-way tie for the first place in the American division. And now he's climbing to catch up to me and Dave. So it's going to be an uphill battle for him.
Man, I feel like a woman.
The recipient of this week's Jordan Squats While He Pees Award is going to go to Brock Osweiler. And I believe this might be his 2nd or 3rd time getting the award. And I'll give it to him as many times as I have to, because every time I'm forced to watch this guy play football, he's so bad. He's so atrocious. And it's really frustrating because I have Lamar Miller on my team. And they keep taking the ball out of Lamar Miller's hands so they can give it to Brock Osweiler and say, go win the game, Brock. And he never does. And I can't fathom what they're thinking. And he's just so bad. And Lamar Miller still had a good week, but he should have had an even better week. For instance, Ball on the 1 yard line last night, Monday Night Football. 1 yard line. Give it to Lamar Miller. No, they they have Brock Osweiler pass. Ball gets batted down at the line, and rather than just letting the ball drop and taking second down at the 1 yard line, he catches it and gets sacked immediately, loses about 8 yards, and suddenly it's not Lamar Miller touchdown time anymore. It's Brock Osweiler throw 2 incompletions and then kick a field goal time. Oh, I hate the guy.
This is so exciting.
We'll look ahead to week 12 now, and the matchup of the week is going to be Steve's 6-5 Butt Sex Bandits versus Willie's 7-4 Wonky Wangs. And this is a big game for wildcard seeding, but potentially for divisional seeding. For, let's say, Sean loses this coming week and Willie wins this game. That means Willie will overtake Sean for the division lead, as they'll have an equal record, and by virtue of the tiebreaker, Willie will be in the lead. And let's say Sean loses and Steve wins against Willie. That would mean that Steve leapfrogs Willie in the standings by 1 spot. They'll have the same record, but Steve has the tiebreaker. And they'll both only be 1 game back of Sean going into the last week, which will set up a really fun week 13. And anyway, just want to say there's still 2 weeks left. The worst record is 4-7 right now, which means that every team is still in it, because a lot of times 6 wins can get you in. So keep playing, keep trying, and I'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
But I'm cool like that. 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 I'm cool like that.